This is CUNY TV, the City University of New York.
Hello, I'm Doug Muzzio. This is City Talk. Today, no politics, no public affairs, no fiscal cliff, no Hurricane Sandy. Rather, CC, Derek, Mariano, A-Rod, and Andy. The Yankees, baseball, Steinbrenners, juicers in the hall, hoping there's Bronx games worth watching come fall. So I'm in Jones Hardware in Pompton Plains, New Jersey, when Rob Jones, the proprietor of this iconic establishment, says to me, "Professor, this is George King." George King, I say? The George King? Yes, the George King, the New York Post Yankee beat writer here in my winter of sports discontent. George, welcome.
Nice to have me.
Bad poetry, I apologize. This afternoon, today, 2 o'clock, Wednesday, January 9th, we find out who gets inducted, if anyone, into the Hall of Fame. You've got a ballot. What does it look like?
I don't know. To sit here and tell you that I could, predict who's getting in, who's not getting in, if anybody's getting in, I don't know. The ballot is a process that a lot of people try to keep private. The ballot is a process this year where there's 1,000 questions that don't relate to home runs, RBIs, strikeouts, wins, and losses. This one, with the inclusion of Roger Clemens and Barry Bonds, has, we're talking about it. And people have been talking about it for a month, 2 months, 3 months, or ever since the ballot came out. I don't know. I wouldn't venture a guess either way of how they all do, how they don't do, who gets in, who doesn't get in.
Now, some sports writers have, they announce their picks and, there's arguments back and forth, and others are really quite private about your vote, which you are.
Right.
But you did vote. I mean,
yes.
It's not a blank ballot.
No,
you've got anywhere from 1 to 10 players. There's 37 players on the 2013 official list. So you actually voted for players who you felt were eligible for the Hall.
Right.
Now,
qualified for the
qualified for the Hall. Now, just in terms of just generally, and then we'll get off the the juicer topic. In your mind, how do you look at this era, this drug era, this steroid era, and how it affected the game and how it should affect our perception of worthiness into the Hall of Fame?
Obviously, you can't ignore it. It happened. It's happening. It's going to happen. We still have players under suspicion today, and that's not going to change. I think what you have to do, it's so long and so deep and so involved, I think you have to look at every player, what kind of player they were, how long did they play, and then make up your own mind whether you thought he had help and he cheated. That, I think, is up to the individual voter. I don't think you can throw a blanket over 750 Major League players and say, well, I'm not voting for the players who are linked or the players who are convicted or the players who failed tests. I think it's an individual thing. It's been going on so long. I don't think you can just say, well, the players from 1999 at the height of the steroid era, we're not going to deal with them. I think you got to do it on an individual basis for every year.
But should the criteria be, the prime criterion be what you did between the lines, rather than what you did outside the lines? That may have affected what you did within the lines, right. But just looking within the lines, it seems to me a Clemens, a Bonds, a Piazza, even, a Palmeiro, these folks, come on, based on the numbers, they deserve to be in.
There's a great line by Ray Ratto from San Francisco, and I saw it the other day again. Cooperstown is not a church. It's a shrine for baseball players. It's really hard to sit and judge because, again, the era is no longer a 2-year period, a 5-year period. And when's it going to end?
Right.
We don't know.
Right.
We have no idea what the next HGH or the next steroid is. It's
So
out
somebody's
there.
taken something that hasn't been
Right.
detected.
And the
You're trying to beat the
testing
system.
process is behind that process.
Okay. Let's move from the era to what you do. You've got in many ways, you've got the best sports job in the world, covering the New York Yankees for the premier sports page in the United States. Now, pitchers and catchers are in 5 weeks. Life begins anew for many of us. What is it like to be the beat reporter? What is your life? What are the rhythms? Talk about being a beat writer and being a beat writer for the premier sports team.
It's very interesting. It's very challenging.
Challenging in what way?
The workload, the obligation to your boss and to the readers to give something different every day, not the same story, not the same grind out quotes from statements and stuff like that. It's challenging and it's different if you do it the way that they want it done. They want something different. They want something that's going to sell the paper. That's the challenge. And it's challenging because there's 10 to 15 of me around the team every day. So you've got to go and pick, do what you want to do. The other challenging parts of it is, they're professional athletes. They don't like to be told that they stink. They don't like to have the neighbor reach across the fence and say, "Do you see what they wrote about you today?"
Right.
It's a wonderful job in a somewhat crazy business.
Okay. So how do you navigate? How do you work as the beat writer for the Post? Do you have unfettered access to the players? What is it? I mean, unlike the Knicks where, you need an armed guard to interview a player.
Unfettered would be a little bit of a stretch. We have probably the best access among the pro sports. Spring training is a wonderful time to get to know players to get to know you. We have access. You develop relationships. It's been linked to a cop or a detective, I've been told by other people, that what we do is almost what they do on a smaller scale as far as developing relationships. And you take it from there. I mean, the game's still, the games are still the selling point of this whole thing.
Right.
But it's become contracts, it's become trades, it's become a lot of other stuff that doesn't happen between 7 and 10. So that, I think, is another part of why it's challenging.
Okay. How do you rip somebody one day and interview them the next? I mean, can you ever be friends with the ball players, or are you friendly and cordial but not friends? There's got to be a line, or at least a range.
There's a line. Friends, I've stayed close to people that I've covered. Friendly, friends would be, but that's a gray area. Friendly, you can be friendly. I think most players, there's always an exception to this. I think most players, if you keep it to performance, they know when they stink. They know when they've been 1 for 28. If you make it personal, if you discuss, give you David Wells. Our paper loved to make fun of David Wells' weight.
Yeah.
When he lost. When he was 18-3, he wasn't fat. So he would get annoyed when he'd see Hefty Lefty. If it becomes personal, then you probably run the risk of a bad relationship. If it's just numbers and performance, there's nothing they can do about it.
Okay, the Yankees, they're both a team composed of 25-plus players and a lot over a season, plus an organization. What's your relationship with the organization? And when you came in to the Post in '97, what was the organization and what is it now?
Well, the organization then was George.
George.
That was it. Everybody worked for George. George thought everybody worked for him, including the newspapers. He'd yell and scream at you, and you'd have to remind him, "George, I don't work for you." That's obviously changed, and that changed before he passed away. It's more Hal doesn't make himself anywhere near available. Brian Cashman is the voice of the organization. George wanted the Yankees on the back page in December, January, February, March, and then continue. I don't sense that the Steinbrenner family, that's nothing they wake up in the morning and want to see. But I've been there so long that everybody knows who I am, and I know who everybody is. So that makes it doing my job a lot easier. The Post, to its credit, has had 3 beat writers since 1988. 3 Yankee beat writers since 1988. One of them did it for a year in between Joel Sherman and myself. That has helped enormously.
Yeah, the continuity.
Because everybody knows who you are.
Right.
But how has it changed? You know, he was the boss for a reason.
Okay. How does a kid from Pequannock, New Jersey, you and Derek Jeter, in fact, get to the best sports writing job in the country? Give us a little bio. How do you end up at the Post in 1997?
I went to a college in Tennessee, and they were the city paper, the town paper, was looking for a guy to put together something on their basketball team. I grew up like a million other kids in the New York area. I read the papers my father brought home. At that time, there was probably 8 to 10 of them. So I said, okay, let's try that. So I did that, and then that was through college. I got out of college. I taught a little bit, and I said, you know what, let me try this again. Started at a very small paper in our town that we live in. And
we're neighbors, by the way. Go ahead.
And from there, it's just next paper to the next paper, you know, high school field hockey to, you know, a little bit of college and pro, then I guess you keep tricking them.
Nice, nice. But you've been there a long time. This is 15 going on 16 years. Yeah. Do you get tired of it? Doesn't the traveling get to you?
You know what? Everybody's, at this time of year, everybody says, oh, it's fine. I think people are being dishonest in my business if they don't tell you the traveling gets to them in September. You've done it. You've left home on February 10th. You're home for...
So you're gone on... You arrive with the pitches and the catches, and you leave whenever it ends.
I go to the World Series, so it's going to end November 1st.
Okay.
But, you know, I think that the traveling will catch up to you in September. But what we do, that we at least drop an anchor for 2, 3, 4 days. Some of the other sports...
Right. They keep moving.
They're gone. So the traveling's okay. That doesn't wear you out, but I think, you know, I think you'd be doing a little bit of a disservice to the question if you asked in September. Ask that question about September 10th.
And then you're really grouchy around then?
You're not grouchy. You just, you know.
You're dead.
It's nice hotels, nice airplanes, but they're still okay.
So you work from, I mean, you're probably working all the time, but you're literally on the job physically from the 10th to
well,
whenever.
No, that goes, I get a break at Christmas. So literally 10th to Christmas, February 10th to Christmas.
That's
and the baseball part of it is fine because they're in front of you.
Right.
If you need one of them, you know where to find them.
Right.
Day after the season ends,
they're
that
gone.
becomes an email, it becomes telephone, that becomes chasing them down at charity events. That becomes a lot harder.
Now, do you generate all your own story ideas? Does an editor sometimes say, "Why don't you do this?" How do you pick up what you do?
90% of the stuff in the off season is chasing free agents and trades.
Okay.
So that's on you. That's why they hired you. That's why they pay you. Go find out who the Yankees are going to sign. There are times during the season that they'll say to you, "Hey, you know, we've got some space here. Why don't we do something on the Yankees' injuries for the first half of the season?"
Right.
Stuff like that.
Right. Okay.
Or, you know, let's do something on, you know, Hank Steinbrenner, the owner who nobody hears from anymore. That's when the editor gets involved. But for the most part,
when the season
starts,
right.
the games are the games, then trades, free agents, that stuff is, you know, that's on the beat writer.
You've been covering the Yankees in a particularly glorious time, coming in '97. I mean, in the middle of this dynasty, you've covered some of the best players ever at their positions. A-Rod at short, but Yankees at third. Mariano, Jeter's in the Hall of Fame. And then we come to, and we've talked about this in Jones Hardware, Cano. Talk about the Yankee team sort of going around positions 1 through 9. But let's start, this year. Let's start with number 5. Let's start with the 5 position, A-Rod. A-Rod, surgery, out at least until July, maybe forever, and then they get Kevin Youkilis? Excuse me.
Here's the dynamic on Alex. Yankee fans never want to see him again, right? He's 2 for 28 in the middle of June. He's striking out 15 times. Get rid of him, okay?
I'm not one of those fans, but go ahead.
He's gone. Now they complain, oh, what, we can't have Euclid. Well, who do you want? Clete Boyer? He's dead. You know, this is the dynamic of the guy. He's the person. His detractors, they got rid of him. He's not gone maybe, but he's going to be gone for a while. Go ahead. You got to play somebody there. He couldn't have played Nunez. Euclid for 1 year, I think, is fine. I think
He can't hit, and he's a lousy third baseman.
I think he'll be able to hit in Yankee Stadium.
Yeah, but does he play 100? Who spells him? He's going to play 110 games.
He's not going to play 140 games.
So forget it.
That they're going to have to.
So they've got a weak player at third.
Nix will make the club, even though he's not on the roster right now. They're not as good today as they were last year with Alex. That's for sure.
Okay.
The key, I think, to that five we're going to talk about is how Cano plays with big money on the line.
Go ahead. Talk about the number. What is it? 4 position.
It's the first time he's playing for money. I mean, and he wants big money, and we're talking Prince Fielder $200 million money.
This guy's a potential Hall of Famer.
How does he react to that pressure? Shane Victorino, who was a very good player,
right,
played terribly this past year in his walk year. He's a little older than Cano, too.
Right.
So how does he do it? Bernie Williams played very well in his walk year, and then he struggled when he signed the big money his first half of the next year. Money's a weird deal. Money can really change things. I mean, people say money's energy and it moves things, but when it becomes an athlete and he's playing for money, it's huge. I mean, I think with a regular season by Cano, his regular year, 300, 290, 300, 25, and 100, they have a chance. If he
they even have a chance with even if he does better than that.
Well, if they do better than that,
they have a better chance. Oh,
if he doesn't.
I'm glad I'm talking to you because my wife threatened to take away my shoelaces and my belt and change me to an electric razor. I'm looking at that team. They don't have a catcher. Teixeira is, 31, and he's got no skills left.
He's not. He hasn't had the years he should have had. Agree.
And then you've got second and third.
Right.
Then you've got Short. Jeter had a miracle year. Can he reproduce that year?
Off a broken foot.
Off a broken foot. Is his foot still in a boot? I mean.
Yeah. Well, might be out of boot today. I like the outfield.
I think
you're going to get a 35, 40 home runs out of the center fielder. I know he strikes out a lot. I like Ichiro. I like bringing him back. I did not want Swisher was a good move to let him go.
Yeah, I agree.
I think they have a chance with Cano and I think the pitching staff, and everybody says the first thing out of everybody's mouth is if they stay healthy.
Right.
Well, Michael Pineda was 22 when he got hurt.
Right.
Now, when you get hurt older, you tend to stay out longer.
Sure.
I think the pitching staff, Rivera,
he's got to come back.
Robertson, I think that gives him a chance. Without Cano hitting the way he's supposed to hit, I really think they're in trouble.
Oh, my God. 3 lefties in the outfield? I mean, we're really talking inside baseball here.
That's part of the deal. That was part of bringing Ichiro back in 2 years.
Okay.
The move that was puzzling to me was letting Russell Martin go.
Yeah, why? You don't know.
Can't answer that.
Okay. What is it about the Steinbrenners in this team? It seems to me that this $189 million cap, where you don't have to pay the tax if you're below it, is driving the whole decision-making process of the Yankees totally.
I think is it driving it from A to Z? No. I think what you're looking at is you're looking at the same thing that happened after the 07 season without the parameters put in place. We didn't hear 189 or whatever it was. They didn't spend much money. They were loading up, waiting on CC and Teixeira.
Right.
You're going to see the same thing, I think, after 14. If you don't violate or surpass the 189, you get a big break in 15.
Right.
What you're going to see, I think, is they're going to try to save themselves $60 million penalty, and then when the purse strings, when the fines don't accumulate as much, I think then you see them build towards 15. Which they'll still have Alex on the payroll and Teixeira on the payroll.
Right, thank you. And
CC on the payroll.
Or they're making the team more attractive economically to sell it, that without that penalty, that this immensely valuable franchise becomes more. But if the product on the field deteriorates, the value goes down anyway.
I think when you're talking about the 189 mark, I think what you're seeing is something we already saw following the 2007 season, when there was no public 189. There was no Hal Steinbrenner saying, we're going to get to this. There was no penalty. There was a penalty, but there wasn't as severe. They waited, and they signed Sabathia, they signed Teixeira.
Right, and they win in 2009.
Right. I think what you're seeing now is something along those lines, because after 14, if you don't get penalized in 14, you get relief in 15. I think that's what
I have to wait that long? I'm an addict. Come on, George.
This is Hal Steinbrenner. He admits he's a bottom-line guy, and he doesn't want to pay. It's a $60 million, give or take. It's a $60 million hit if you go to 190 in 14. He doesn't want to do it. It's his bat and his ball. I don't think.
But it's my team.
It's your team, and it's about 75 million other people.
Right, thank you. Don't mess with my team.
And you've also grown up with the team for the last, not the last, but since George took over.
Oh, no, before that.
Anything you wanted.
60 years.
Well, anything you wanted when George had it, George got you.
Yeah, some real stiffs, too.
But 03, you should that should have been a World Series win in the fans' mind, right?
Yep.
He gets Johnson and Sheffield in the same year. Nothing.
Yep.
It doesn't guarantee you anything.
Yeah, baseball to me, this is why I love baseball. My brother and I have had this fight forever. Which is a better sport, baseball or football? And we've left the halftime at a Giant game to drive to Yankee Stadium to watch a World Series game. So we're really crazy. But part of the beauty of baseball is that the Yankees can win more games than everybody else last year. They get by Baltimore. And then, excuse me, they play the Tigers and they look terrible. It's one of those things with baseball that you go into slumps and then the team goes into a slump. I mean, this is sort of the glory of baseball.
Giants won the World Series.
Again, crazy.
Where do they finish? Where do they finish the American League East? Going into last year. Tigers didn't hit for 4 games. The Yankees didn't hit for 4 games.
Yeah.
Are the Tigers better than the Yankees? Sure. Are the Tigers better than the Giants? Probably. Probably. But once you beat Verlander, the whole thing changes.
Okay. I mean, when I decided that, and Jones Hardware, that we should talk on camera, I asked my brother and some other baseball lunatics some questions. My brother's question was, the chronic lack of major league ready players in the Yankee farm system, despite the enormous financial resources the organization possesses, as a real black mark against sort of the Hal Steinbrenner regime. That you've got one star player. And that's Cano, and that's it. You don't have anything else.
And Cano's not really, quote unquote, a Hal Steinbrenner regime player.
No.
What you have, and I think this gets overlooked too in the era of when George was spending freely and often. I think you look around, homegrown players. We'll forget Jeter, forget Rivera. They're from a different generation.
Right.
Forget that. Whether you like Gardner or don't like Gardner, he's homegrown, and he's going to play left field. Nova won 29 games in the last 2 years.
Okay.
He's homegrown.
Okay.
Whether you like him or not.
We'll take him.
David Robertson.
Okay.
Probably but way above average for what he does.
Okay.
They're 3 guys that they're going to heavily depend on, and they're homegrown. Now, that's 3. That's 3 out of 25. Phelps is going to be a legitimate pitcher for somebody somewhere. Then you have guys like, and he hasn't been publicized, and I think he's going to be a really good player. It might not be for the Yankees. A kid like David Adams who's close.
Right.
Once you get past there, you've got suspect prospects because that's all they are. When you're AA, you're a suspect prospect.
Right.
Have they come up short in developing major studs since Cano? Yes. But I think the rap gets a little bit bad because people don't look at the depth of it. Like, who can help us do what? And don't forget, again, whether you liked Montero or not, and I didn't, whether you did it or not, he got the Michael Pineda.
Yeah.
Who was supposed to be.
Supposed to be. Right.
He was supposed to win 12, 15 games
right.
last year.
No, yeah.
So I think if you start banging on the Yankees not producing players, you've really got to look at the other 29 teams.
Wow. Okay. So I can have my shoelaces and my belt back. Okay. We've got 2 minutes to go. Your most memorable game as a sports writer, beat writer?
Oh, sports writer. As a sports writer, it was Game 6 of the 1986 World Series. I mean, nothing.
I know. I still get goosebumps when watching that ball dribble through his legs.
And Game 6 of the 93 World Series, Joe Carter's home run.
What about you? What you actually were physically present at?
I was.
Oh, you were at both of them.
I covered both of them.
What? Was there a season that you remember more than anyone else? Any other?
The '98 Yankee season.
Yeah, '98.
I mean, they were. They started off 1-2, 1-3, and Joe Torre says, "I know who I work for." He just won a World Series in '96.
Right, and he's worried.
He went to the playoffs in '97.
Right.
I know. He was sitting on a trunk in Oakland. Like we're sitting here, and he goes, "I know who I work for." They won 114 games. That was
That was it.
pretty significant season.
You're coming back, right?
I'll come back.
Okay.
If Jones pays the bill.
You can put him on my credit.
Okay.
You can put your expenses on my credit. Thanks to George King III for being on the show. Join us next week when we talk fiscal cliff, state budget, and the state of the state with Controller Thomas DiNapoli here on CUNY TV. Hello, I'm Doug Muzzio. Let us know what you think about this show. You can reach us at CUNY.TV. When you get there, click on the bar that says Contact Us and send your email. Whatever it is. Thanks, no thanks, obnoxious, do it. Send it.